Alrighty, hello everyone. Just some thoughts tonight. I think that I'm going to start a little mini series called Senior Ideas. I myself am a senior in high school, and I feel like this is one thing that I never really got. Um, I never really had a way of like finding people and asking them these questions or just even general ideas of things I really didn't think about prior to me going through my years of high school. It's kind of like one of those things where you have a sibling and they just get thrown into the school system first, so that way you kind of have a better way of like knowing who to talk to, maybe whose classes to not take or what to do and whatnot. So this is also a project for me. I want to see how well this does because I feel like that this is definitely a good idea and it's definitely going to be a little interesting. One of the topics I wanted to talk about today is stress. During your high school career, you are going to be stressed. It's something normal that happens. If you don't get stressed, I'm assuming you probably don't do your work and kind of just chill, or maybe you're just really well at school and know how to balance everything, which good for you. Not a lot of kids know how to do that. But I feel like stress is probably one of the bigger parts of high school that really deter kids away from doing, from finding and doing better and bigger things. An example is AP classes. So I myself have been enrolled in multiple AP classes, some of them being more difficult than others. Um, and when it came to the AP tests, I really didn't do my good my first time around. I'm still taking four this year, and I think I'm doing pretty good in them. And I really have better, like a better hope that I'm gonna do well in these ones than I did in junior year. But everyone that I've talked to, the ones in AP classes, are hopeful of their future. They want to do something bigger. That's why they took the class because they wanted to challenge themselves. And then I started talking to kids outside of the AP class, and they said, "Oh, I wasn't able to because the amount of stress it would put on me, on my life, and all this unnecessary stuff." I'm like, I understand, but you're always going to be stressed. Now, if it's something like your family is going through a tough time, or maybe there's just like a little notch in the road, I get it. That's perfectly normal. But if you're going to be stressed 24/7 about growing, then you're not actually growing. There's an analogy where a shark doesn't grow bigger than its bowl because if you keep it encased in its habitat, then it's got no room to grow. So, like an example is a fishbowl. If I dump a shark in there, it's not going to grow bigger than the fishbowl. Or even better, there was a study where they put fleas into a jar and they left the fleas in the jar for about, I think, 2 weeks. 2 weeks after, they unscrewed the jar and the fleas were not able to jump higher than the lid because they've conditioned themselves to not be able to push past the limit that they've like been in. If you're going to be stressed about a lot of things, I that's kind of what you're doing now. If you're going to be limiting yourself to only the basic classes and you're already really stressed about it, then I would say at least make that extra leap forward. Or better yet, find some way to calm yourself from the stress. Now, I'm not saying go walk in a park or pick up a new instrument. Everyone has their own ways. And if that does work for you, great. But while we want to do things that are in our own comfort, things that we feel comfortable doing, like playing video games, reading, there comes an unhealthy obsession. If you play video games a lot to reduce stress, it's actually harmful because now you're expected to play as many video games or spend as much time on video games to help reduce that stress instead of confronting the problem. So, for example, one of my friends, she was stressed because she had a lot of work piled on top of her. And we were talking, and as I was listening kind of just about her day, she seemed like she procrastinated a lot. Now it's okay having free time. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have free time and your work schedule should be 100% work, 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 nothing else, but you're going to continue procrastinating, then that's one of the major things that's going to set you up for failure within the future and causes a lot more stress than anything else I personally know of personally. Now, once you do stop becoming stressed and you start challenging, um, and you start like challenging yourself, putting yourself out there, it's gonna cause you to grow, obviously. Um, but if you make that extra step forward, maybe if you play an instrument for an orchestra and you just need to practice 10 minutes a day, if you do that, even though it might be stressful to even just pull the music out and not understand it, if you keep chugging your time at it, it's going to help you a lot more in the long run, especially with stress early on. Because if you're stressed about playing something now and something later on, it's not that helpful. But me being a senior, I do believe I've definitely taken my fair share of just day offs because there was probably like 3 tests lined up in a day, or just back and forth, just like beaten up because of the amount of AP classes I did take last year. I'm not saying that you should skip class, but understand that mental break days are real. During my junior year, not only did I have 3 AP classes, I was also doing National History Day at the time. I had a job on the weekends where I went in at 5 a.m., got out at 2 9-hour shifts every weekend just to have money. That really pushed me to my limit because I myself put myself under a lot of stress getting into just hard working conditions because I thought I could do it. And to be fair, I did. And I passed my classes, not the not the AP tests, but I passed my classes. And looking back at me now, or looking back a year now, it was really insane to think that I once did that. Still work on the weekends, still 9-hour shifts, 8 hours on Saturday, but I found a better way to use my time. And now I'm not really stressed anymore. If you're a freshman, you're worried about maybe making the wrong mistake. Just calm down, take a breather, and understand that it's okay. Colleges want to see you grow. If you don't do good in freshman year, then I'm not saying you shouldn't do good, but it offers that opportunity for growth. You won't have to worry as much about failing a class or whatnot as a freshman because your expectation is not to be perfect. And that's going to be really hard to get through your head, even if you're listening to this and actually taking to it heart. But you are not going to be perfect. No one's going to be perfect freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. I'm not even perfect now. I took me a lot of time to find myself, and I still am. I'm working on self improvement and things I wanted to change about my life. Over time, you're going to learn how to deal with stress. And I think it's one of the better skills for you to learn because not a lot of kids know how to handle with stress. So once you find that mindset, the mindset of just understanding that you should challenge yourself, that stress is temporary, but if you put yourself in stressful conditions and don't try to find a way to find that equilibrium of normal stress and unnecessary stress, you're going to make your life difficult. And you are not going to have a great time in high school or in life. You will probably be diagnosed with depression if you would, because a lot of kids nowadays are starting to get more depressed in high school, and partially of it is just because a large amount of stress. So, my advice to you is Stress is temporary. You should challenge yourself if that's something you're stressing about. Maybe. And doing new things is going to feel awful. But if you're not going to go out there and put yourself in a bigger fish tank to grow, then I think that high school, or maybe life overall, if you're listening to this as a normal person or a non high school student, is gonna make you really stressed. Now, everyone might have exceptions, but just know there's always room for change. Someone who's unemployed can always find a job. Someone who's homeless can always find a home. It's always about the dedication that you put into it. Other than that, that's just kind of my big points. As I said, this is a big project for me, so if you could just like, subscribe, that would really help me out. Other than that, I hope that you have a great day. Bye.